Hello everyone, welcome back to our network security course. Last time we talked a lot about application layer security, so I uploaded new slides to our web server OptiClass. So this time the number of slides are quite large, I think more than 110 pages. But also, although we already talked about application layer security, I want to continue today talking about a little bit more protocols about application layer security like secure email, Radius, and secure MIME. Then we will talk about transport layer security and network layer security, but I think I will do them in two different new videos. So today this video will be about application layer security. I will talk briefly about secure email and then talk a little bit about Radius and S-MIME. So you know that these slides are adapted from these books and I strongly suggest you to read them. So let's move on to secure email. So the concept of secure email, secure communication is as follows. So we already talked about this in our cryptography lectures. So four major desirable properties of secure communication are confidentiality, endpoint authentication, message integrity, and operational security. So confidentiality means that only sender and intended receiver should understand message contents. Sender encrypts the message, receiver decrypts the message. So this is just done by encryption and decryption. So symmetric key cryptography would be enough for this. Endpoint authentication means sender and receiver want to confirm identity of each other. So this means, with public key algorithms we can do this. We can authenticate people. Message integrity means sender and receiver want to ensure message not altered in transit or afterwards without detection. So we already talked about hash functions. So message integrity can be done by hash functions or also by authenticated encryption. Operational security means services must be accessible and available to users. This one is not directly related to cryptography because here we have to provide security against denial of service attacks. Okay, so let's think about how the secure email should work. So, this is ideally our picture. Two parties wants to communicate, in our case Alice and Bob, and a malicious person can listen to the channel and obtain the data. So for this reason, mainly this is why cryptography actually tries to provide security even if the channel is not secure. But here the attack might be to real life users, but in real life we don't encrypt data by ourselves, but we use electronic devices like web browser servers for electronic transactions and so on. So also the intruder tried to attack online banking client servers or DNS servers, routers, and so on. So let's return to email. Alice wants to send confidential email to Bob, and Trudy wants to intrude. Desirable security features for Alice and Bob are as follows: confidentiality, sender authentication, message integrity, in other words, no modification of the message while en route to Bob, and receiver authentication. Bob should receive the message, not someone that impersonates Bob. So, as you can easily imagine at this point, we have enough cryptographic primitives to solve all of these problems, and in a few minutes I will show you how this can be done. But don't forget that our current email systems are not all of them are secure. We can still receive spam emails, but due to modification of headers, the emails appear as if they are sent from, like, for instance, webmaster@microsoft.com and so on. So this is why we might prefer secure email. Confidentiality is provided by encryption, as I told you. Alice may encrypt the message with symmetric key cryptography technology like AES. The challenge, giving the key to both Alice and Bob, may be difficult, but good thing is that we have public key cryptography, so we can communicate securely with people we haven't met before. So Bob makes his public key available. Alice encrypts the message with Bob's public key. You can use RSA or AlGamal and so on. When Bob receives the message, he decrypts it with his private key. The problem here is that, as already told in our cryptography weeks, public key encryption is relatively inefficient for long messages. So this causes both time problems because encrypting a huge message using RSA would take a lot of time. Also, the message size would increase, so you would have bandwidth problems and so on. So in real life, almost nobody uses RSA directly for encryption. I mean, you can use it if the data you transmit is some in terms of like small data like bytes or kilobytes, then you can do it, but otherwise it's not something you would prefer. So confidentiality is provided by encryption as follows. The alternative approach is something like this. Make use of a session key. So Alice selects a random symmetric session key KS. So for AES encryption, she chooses a symmetric key. She encrypts her message with message M with the secret key for efficiency, because you know that symmetric key algorithms are way faster than public key algorithms. She encrypts the symmetric key with Bob's public key. She concatenates the encrypted message and the encrypted symmetric key to form a package. She sends the package to Bob's email address. So what we have encrypted message and also the encryption key encrypted with Bob's public key. So public key, Bob will capture this KS from this by using his private key. So once he has the AES key, then he can decrypt the message. So here's a picture how it works. So Alice has the message, encrypts it with the symmetric key encryption algorithm, but also takes this key and encrypts it with Bob's public key and concatenates this to the message. And through the internet she sends it, and anybody who captures these ciphertexts would not obtain anything, as long as they don't know, if they don't know a way to break AES or RSA. So what Bob does is as follows. He obtains both encrypted message and encryption of the secret key. So he decrypts this with his private key and obtains KES. Using KES, he decrypts this and obtains the message. So in this case, we solve the problem of confidentiality. But this is not enough, because we wanted more. Because we also said that we want to design a system such that it also provides that sender authentication and message integrity. So far we only provided confidentiality. So let's forget this, our first solution, and try to find the solution to this, authentication and message integrity. Once we also solve it, we will combine both of them and talk about how secure email works in real world. So assumption is as follows. Alice and Bob desire sender authentication and message integrity, and they are not interested in confidentiality anymore. The method is as follows. We will use digital signatures and message digest, in other words, hash functions. Alice applies a hash function h. In the slides it says, for example, MD5, but anything older than SHA-2, that would not be secure. So Alice chooses a secure hash function like SHA-2 and takes the hash of her message and obtains a hash of it, or message digest. She signs the result of the hash function with her private key to create a digital signature. She concatenates the original unencrypted message with the signature to create a package. She sends the package to Bob's email address. So it follows like this. So you have the message, you send the message directly, because I told you that currently we are not interested in confidentiality. So you send it as a plain text. But you also take the hash of this message, and result is encrypted with Alice's private key. So once this is sent, Bob obtains the message, but he also obtains this. So he decrypts this by Alice's public key and obtains h of m. So he obtains the hash of the message, but he also has the message. So he can also apply the hash function and obtain hash of the message again. So if they gave the same result, this means that message is not altered. So integrity problem is solved. But also, since we use the Alice's private key and obtain this, this also solves the problem of authentication. So sender authentication and integrity provided in case the two results are the same. So far what we have done is as follows. We designed two different secure email systems that provide confidentiality, and the other one provides sender authentication and message integrity. So next step is to combine the two systems. How it works is as follows. Alice creates a preliminary package to provide confidentiality. The package consists of her original message and the digitally signed hash of the message. She treats this package as a message and sends this new message by providing sender authentication and message integrity. So let's look at the picture now. You have the message, okay, sorry, and you also have the hash of the message, and she signs it with her private key of this hash. So now you have the message and digitally signed hash of this message. Now she performs symmetric key encryption and encrypts using a key, in this case called KS. So she encrypts both the message and the digitally signed hash. Now she can send it to Bob, but Bob doesn't know the session key, so she also encrypts it by using Bob's public key and sends it through the internet. So note that both Alice and Bob use public key cryptography twice, one here and the second one is here. A popular way to distribute public keys is to certify public keys using certificate authorities. We already talked about this. But, you know, there are also some problems if you distribute your public keys, like in the case of PGP. If you just put your public key on your web page, then maybe somebody can impersonate you by creating another web page and using a different public key and so on. But we solved the confidentiality and user authentication message integrity problems. We provided all of them. So PGP, which is short for Pretty Good Privacy, is an example of this protocol. So it is an email encryption scheme. As far as I know, it is the world's most widely used secure email protocol. PGP is an example of the combined design for confidentiality, authentication, and integrity. Initially, it used MD5 or SHA-1 because when it was introduced, these algorithms are secure, but today you cannot use them. I already show you how you can impersonate someone at someone's PGP if it is signed with SHA-1. So you have to move on to SHA-2 if you want to use such a system. And initial designs used algorithms like CAS, Triple DES, IDEA, but you know, this PGP was when it was first introduced, there was a problem because it was a free software, but it was using RSA, and at that time RSA tried to prevent this because there was, I think this was against the regulations of United States to provide strong encryption to other countries, but later on they modified the laws and it was allowed to use, people were allowed to use RSA for this kind of encryption. However, currently there is an OpenPGP that you can use, and OpenPGP adds from time to time new algorithms, like for instance you can use AES-128 for symmetric key encryption, and as far as I know you can use SHA-256 for calculating message digest, because if you use MD5 or SHA-1 then you cannot have any security at all. So PGP software creates a public key pair for the user. The user may announce the public key on a website or a public key server. The private key is protected by a password. The user may digitally sign the message, encrypt the message, or both. Below is a PGP signed message, as you can see here. This is generally what you see when you receive a PGP email. Below is also a secret PGP message for both confidentiality and integrity. PGP provides public key certification mechanism, but this is different than certificate authorities. So PGP public keys are certified by a Web of Trust. Web of Trust means something like this. A user can certify any key username pair in case they believe that the pair belong together by vouching. So the designer of PGP, Philip Zimmermann, mentioned this as follows. As time goes on, you will accumulate keys from other people that you may want to designate as trusted introducers. Everyone else will each choose their own trusted introducers, and everyone will gradually accumulate and distribute with their key a collection of certifying signatures from other people, with the expectation that anyone receiving it will trust at least one or two of the signatures. This will cause the emergence of a decentralized, fault-tolerant web of confidence for all public keys. Of course, this was said in 1992, and again today it is not, using a certificate authority sometimes better for this kind of communication, but you are sure that who you're communicating to, you're sure that the public key you obtain belongs to the person you want to communicate, then you can securely use PGP. Not related to this topic, but Zimmermann also made another comment recently, actually trying to refer to Moore's law. He said that the natural flow of technology tends to move in the direction of making surveillance easier and the ability of computers to track us doubles every 18 months. Okay, so let's return back to Web of Trust and how it operates. There are two keys pertaining to a person, a public key which is shared openly, a private key that is withheld by the owner. The owner's private key will decrypt any information encrypted with its public key. In the Web of Trust, each user has a ring with a group of people's public keys. Users encrypt their information with the recipient's public key, and the only recipient's private key will decrypt it. Each user then digitally signs the information with their private key, so when the recipient verifies it against the user's own public key, they can confirm that it is the user in question. So we can compare this to PKI, public key infrastructure, because it permits each certificate to be signed only by a single party, in other words, a certificate authority. So this will be all for secure email. I will briefly mention a few more other application layer security protocols and conclude this discussion. So there are other protocols. Secure email is important. The majority of the internet communication content is email content. Other proposals for security protocols and standards are like SSL TLS, Secure IP, called IPsec, DNSSEC, SSH, and Radius. So in the next slide I will talk about Radius. So Radius is short for Remote Authentication Dial-in User Service. Radius is a service for remote user authentication and accounting. It's a widely used dial-up authentication authorization protocol. Radius is a client-server protocol that runs in the application layer. It can use either TCP or UDP transport. All correspondence between the client and Radius server is authenticated through the use of a shared secret, which is never sent over the network. User passwords are sent encrypted between the client and Radius server, mainly used by internet service providers to provide authentication and accounting for remote users. It is also used for centralizing authentication for off-site employees. So it works something like this. So you have a lot of remote users and they want to dial in and use some server, so they connect the network access server. Here the Radius protocol is used, so there's a Radius server here. So you type in your credentials and it authenticates you. But of course there are some vulnerabilities in this picture. Brute forcing of user credentials, so you have to choose your password in a good way. Since we have most of the time single network access server, it's a single point of failure, so denial of service attacks is possible. Session replays or spoof packet injection are also possible, so you have to be careful when you are using this protocol. Another protocol is SMIME. So first, let's talk about what MIME means. MIME is a protocol to describe the transfer of multimedia data, including pictures, audio, and video. When a MIME server receives a client request for a web document, it adds a MIME header to the document and transmits it together with the document body. The content of the MIME header, like MIME type, image, text, audio, etc., and subtype JPEG, TIFF, GIF, etc. So this is just for transferring multimedia, but MIME does not provide security. So this is, if we extend MIME by adding digital signatures and encryption, in this case we call it SMIME, secure MIME, then this way you can communicate in a secure way. So SMIME provides security services, supports 3 public key algorithms to encrypt session keys for transmission with the message, like Diffie-Hellman. There's a typo here, it should be Diffie-Hellman. This is the preferred algorithm. You can also use RSA for both signature and session keys, and for encryption you can use triple DES. Creating a digital signature is as follows. SMIME uses a hash function of either 160-bit SHA-1 or MD5 to create message digest. As you can see, these protocols and these proposals are old, so this is why they are using broken algorithms. SHA-1 and MD5 are broken, so you shouldn't be using them in practice. Encrypting the message digest to form a digital signature, SMIME uses either digital signature, standard, or RSA. So if you summarize, you can use PGP, which provides secure email. Redius is a service that provides authentication and authorization security. SMIME extends MIME by adding digital signatures and encryption, but of course, as I told you, you should use algorithms that are secure, like SHA-2 and so on. And in the following slides, we will be first talking about transport layer, services, protocols, and security. Then at the end, we will talk a little bit about network layer security, but those will be mentioned in 2 other videos. Goodbye.